Consider the break in a game of pool. Despite hitting the cue ball with seemingly the same force from nearly the same position, you will almost never witness the exact same break twice, because the complexity of interaction between 15 round objects clashing against one another is just too unpredictable. Even though you could watch it frame by frame and identify the exact chain of cause and effect leading each of the balls to its eventual position, you will most likely be unable to duplicate it. A pool break is a case study in chaos theory, mathematics focused on the behavior of dynamic systems which are highly sensitive to changes in their initial conditions. The second half of Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc is an attempt to replicate that brand of chaos in storytelling, an almost literal frame-by-frame breakdown of a huge number of unlike objects playing off of one another, based around the unpredicted initial condition of their interaction. But before I dive into that, I should address the fact that Hunter x Hunter is 148 episodes long, and that the sub-arc which I've chosen to focus this video on comprises just 30 of those. That is because, while I think that the entire series is great, this sub-arc specifically is what lands the show among my favorites. Each of Hunter x Hunter's arcs is so disparate in concept and tone that I could easily score each of them individually as if they were their own series, and while I will later address the way that the surrounding show bolsters this arc and allows it to happen in the first place, I do think that this show's quality is very different from that of, say, the manga author's own Yu Yu Hakusho, which varies in quality from arc to arc, but has its greatest value in the progression of its lead character over the course of the series. There's plenty to be said about the development of Gon and Killua, but that development is not the primary factor in landing the series among my favorites. I talked about the show in more general terms a few years ago, so check that out for a more comprehensive review. I've witnessed fans of Hunter x Hunter complaining about the overabundance of narration in the Chimera Ant arc, and while I find it understandable why plenty of fans may be uninterested in this arc overall, I think it fundamentally misses the point of the arc to disparage the narrator. Without narration, or the constant use of slow motion and ludicrous attention to detail, the arc would be nothing at all. A bulk of it takes place over merely 2 minutes in real time, and the entire arc is set over about an hour. If you watched it in full speed without any narration, it would be completely incomprehensible, just a bunch of characters running back and forth and killing one another. Is it a bit much that nearly an entire episode is dedicated to why Killua decided to turn around after running down a hallway? Perhaps, but there is an obvious and massive difference between watching Killua run down a hallway and then turn around and run back, versus an in-depth explanation not only of the incredibly complex set of reasons for why he had to turn around, but also the equally intricate consequences of having to do so. Describing it dryly may sound pretentious and boring, but a Herculean effort was made to justify the functionality of this arc, and to earn the viewer's investment, which, admittedly, may be difficult to hold on to if you watch it week after week instead of marathoning. Everyone that I've told to rewatch the arc this way has said that they got vastly more enjoyment out of it, so take that as a testimonial if you've yet to watch it in one sitting. The early part of the Chimera Ant arc can be difficult to watch because it is nothing but framework, a stupid amount of setup which was necessary in order to establish its giant cast of characters and deeply woven interplay of powers, which we will have to understand in order for the final confrontation to go forward without a hitch. Without all of this, the final battle would be like watching a chess game without knowing what the pieces do, and this game has a hell of a lot more rules than chess. Not only do we have to know how the game is played, we even need to know the strategies which the players plan to use, and the nature of how the game would play out if everything went according to plan. It's because the elements are established with such painstaking thoroughness that when the game begins and things immediately veer off from the original plan, the tension is spiked through the roof, and the next 30 episodes put your balls in a vice as characters you love on both sides of the conflict are thrust into a situation wherein seemingly anything could happen. But really, everything is on a clear trajectory. It just isn't the predicted one. Our cue ball was struck at an angle 1 degree off from where it was supposed to be, and now the balls are all going in totally new directions, bouncing off of balls that they weren't supposed to bounce off of and going into pockets that we didn't call beforehand. One obnoxious character is killed when an enemy just happens to land on them while falling from the sky, and that is both awesome and hilarious, while actually mattering to how this all eventuates. Sometimes our chaotic system leads to the kind of epic, emotional battles that the genre has primed us to hope for. At one point, to one of the greatest fight scenes ever put to animation between two titanic characters, opposed both physically and ideologically, and with more tricks up their sleeves than we are even made privy to at first. But it also leads to goofy, weird, unpredictable, and cruel moments that blow our minds just in that they happen, and make sense because of the nature of the game. The way that the final opponent is defeated would be utterly disappointing in a normal shonen battle arc. Instead of an incredible superpower being deployed at the end of a 4-episode struggle, the villain is poisoned and dies slowly. But in the context of this game, it is the most appropriate way for things to go, and it happens without even robbing us of the epic beatdowns that we hoped for, which came earlier, and it even stops to deliver on a heart-wrenching scene at the very end. That the chaotic nature of the situation is so convincingly unpredictable, yet can still deliver on all of the big payoffs that we crave from a story, is a testament to Togashi's genius and the sheer amount of legwork that he put into making this arc doable at all. Consider how difficult it would be for a story like this to exist in any other context besides a popular long-form shonen battle manga by a well-established author and with two incredibly beloved main characters. Notwithstanding the usefulness of having a world and characters already established, along with their insanely convoluted power system, just imagine a manga author trying to pitch this story to an editor by itself. The plan is to spend about 40 episodes setting up this one big encounter, and then to play out the entire battle in slow motion with a narrator explaining every movement in exhaustive detail. Oh, and half the characters are going to die anticlimactically by nearly random chance. Togashi got away with presenting a story at great length in a style that I've literally never seen anywhere before, by using an already popular manga series with a dedicated readership and guiding them into the abyss of this crazy idea before they could even realize what was going on. And he goddamn made us love it in the process by writing it so freaking well. Integral to this working within the narrative of Hunter x Hunter is the amount of leeway which Togashi left himself in the story to begin with, perhaps having learned his lesson from the way that Yu Yu Hakusho's power creep led it barreling to conclusion. Not only is the world of this series massive, full of mystery, and largely unexplored, but Togashi is careful to keep his protagonists weak in a way that I've never really seen done in a series like this before. While Gon and Killua are always making progress, there are no shortage of powers which utterly dwarf theirs, and it's because of this that we can feel a constant sense of danger for their and their friends' well-being. It's rare to witness a series openly treating its characters as expendably as this one does, or taking its protagonists out of the big hero seats to play the sidelines of a much larger conflict, yet still coming up with ways to provide them with epic scenes. As I continue describing each of my favorite anime, you will hear the names of a handful of geniuses multiple times. Hiroyuki Imaishi, Kazuki Nakashima, and Hideaki Anno will appear with their works more than once, and so will Yoshihiro Togashi. But if I only loved Togashi for creating one of the tightest, most lovable shonen action series in Yu Yu Hakusho, and for his freewheeling, throw every idea at the wall until one sticks writing of the main thrust of Hunter x Hunter, then I don't think he'd be on the short list of creatives whose work connects with me on some kind of personal, intimate level. That chaos theory and the minutia of how situations play out fascinate me should surprise no one. I have broken down animated scenes frame by frame on this channel multiple times, and exhaustively charted the entire careers of creative staff, marking each of their intersections. You can't give me much better than an intensely detailed sequence of incredible anime battles which literally analyze themselves along the way. If you like things exhaustively analyzed as well, then hang around on my channel as I continue to explain why each of my favorite anime is such. Check out this playlist of essential videos if you need more context into my tastes, and as always, thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.